Hello my friends and welcome to Practice English with Paul. Today we are going to focus on some relatively advanced grammar. Yes, it is inversion. Now this video is quite special because on the social networking site, the Contactia, I had a poll on my wall and I asked people what they would like me to do a video about. Inversion, passives, modal verbs, articles, and people chose inversion, so that's why I'm doing it for you. Now, what is inversion? Well, I'm going to explain in a minute, but let me start with an example. So imagine you're in a CAE exam, writing a review, and you're trying to review a film, you're trying to kind of make people interested in what you're writing, you know, to add some colour. And you say, Brad Pitt stars in this film and he directs this film. The English is correct, but it's really basic. It's not really colourful, it doesn't emphasise anything. Now if you say, not only does Brad Pitt star in this film, but he also directs it, that is really simple English, but it's inversion, it's emphatic from emphasis, and it makes your range of grammar look so much better. It has a very good effect on the target reader because you're catching my interest, like, oh wow, and that's what this inversion is about. Now, let's get on with it and have a look at all the various parts, starting with this. Now, I'm going to split the video into two parts. The first part will be auxiliary have be inversion, and the second part of the video will be your main verb inversion, because they're quite different. So what is inversion? Very simple. Emphasis. Do you know what the word emphasis means? To emphasize, to focus on something, to concentrate on something, to make something bigger, to stress it. That's emphasis, and it's very important that we learn how to do this correctly. Inversion is usually formal, is usually literary, so you'll find it in a lot of kind of fictional literature. It's usually written, of course, but you will sometimes find it in spoken English. Adverbial phrases can be spoken. You might know the basic English for agreement, like so do I, so was I. Pre-intermediate New English file, you will find that in. Even when you use the word may for a wish, may you be happy for the rest of your life, this is inversion. So it really adds colour. It's really, really good grammar. Now let's start off with the basics. So if you're not upper intermediate or advanced, maybe you're pre-intermediate or intermediate, let's have a look at the basics first. You know that word order in English is very, very important. Now I know in Russian you can put your words pretty much where you like. Not in English you can't. When we ask questions in most tenses, we change the subject and the auxiliary. Like here, have you visited London? Not, you have visited London. For a question, we change this around. Now, one small point I want you to remember, my friends. This does not happen in indirect speech, reported speech. This is a common mistake among students all around the world. Look at my last example. I want to know what time does the film start? That is wrong. Because it's reported, we take out the does. Now, I will do a special video on reported questions and I will explain this a bit more. But the correct English, I want to know what time the film starts, not what time does the film start. It sounds really bad to my ears. So, that's the basics, simple. Subject, auxiliary, inversion. Let's have a look at some areas of this, okay? So my friends, here we have inversion as exclamations, and these are used in negative forms. As you can see, my auxiliaries are negative here, isn't, wasn't, haven't, don't, and you can see question marks at the end. It's interesting because they're exclamations, but they're in the form of questions. This is where English gets a bit complicated. Now, here, I can say in normal English for my first example, it is a wonderful day today. That's correct English, but it's not emphatic, it's not really stressing anything. If I want to make it really emphatic, I can say, isn't it a wonderful day today? Oh, absolutely, definitely, of course. Second example, I can say in normal English, without stress, without emphasis, it was a great restaurant. Fine, okay, but I want to stress it. Wasn't it a great restaurant? Sure, it was amazing. The third one, I can say to a child, wow, I haven't seen you in ages. You have grown so much. Now, I can say, to add colour to this, because I'm surprised. Last time she was tiny, now she's a really sort of grown-up girl. I can add emphasis by inversion. Wow, haven't you grown up a lot? Unbelievable. The last one, I can say, wow, you have a huge house. Again, fine, correct English. Inversion makes it that little bit more colourful. Wow, don't you have a huge house? Good Lord, amazing. See how it works? It's actually very, very simple. And notice my intonation in my voice. It goes up, it really changes because I'm stressing it. When you have inversion, you need to stress it, not just with your grammar, but with your intonation too. Let's move on to the next video. So my friends, here we are at the next section. We can use the modal verb may in inversion. Remember, may is an auxiliary. All modal verbs are auxiliaries with meaning, unlike the other ones. Now, we can use may to express wishes and blessings. If you are a fan of the film Star Wars and you've seen it in English, you will have heard this many times. May the force be with you. It's expressing a wish. It's like saying, I hope the force will be with you. Again, I hope the force will be with you. Correct English, but not very emphatic. Inversion does that. May the force be with you. It sounds formal and it sounds colourful now. Similarly, if you are a fan of Star Trek, you'll know that Spock, the Vulcan who does this thing with his fingers and has pointy ears, he says, may you live long and prosper. It's much better than saying, I hope you live a long time and you prosper very well. Again, correct English, but not emphatic. It sounds formal and it sounds nice. Last one, like a blessing. Imagine man and woman get married and the best man says, I hope that you both live happily together. Nice, very nice, but to make it more emphatic, deeper, we use the inversion. May you both live together happily. Or may you both live happily together. Simple, isn't it? It's really, really easy. Now, let's go to the next section. So my friends, here we are at the next part of the video, inversion with so, neither, nor. Now, if you have studied New English File Pre-Intermediate, near the end of the book, you will have learned this, and it is very, very common, very useful and very emotional, especially in that unit in Pre-Intermediate English File. Now, we have I am happy. Here is my auxiliary, am, and my linking verb. And we have my answer to show that I agree. I am happy, so am I. I was, my linking verb in the past. I was a woman, but now I'm a man. I was a woman, so was I. I have my negatives. I'm not dead. Neither am I, or nor am I. I haven't kissed a babushka. A babushka is a Russian word for an old lady. They're very special. I haven't kissed a babushka. Neither have I yet. Now, if I want to make this more emotional, I can use my intonation here. I'm happy, so am I. I was a woman, so was I. I'm not dead, neither am I. I haven't kissed a babushka, nor have I yet. Now, instead of saying this, because I teach this to my students, that you don't have to say, so am I, so was I, so will I, so have I, so had I, etc., etc. You can say me too for everything. You can't make a mistake. But you need to make this, like, you need to stress this, like more emotional. I'm happy, me too. I was a woman, me too. You know, it's not inversion here, but I'm just telling you there is an alternative. And the same here, me too, me neither, for your negatives. So that's that part done. It's really simple. If you want to practice this, there is practice on this. Again, New English File, Pre-Intermediate, 3rd edition. At the back of the book there is some practice, or if you can get hold of the teacher's book, there is a lot of practice at the back there as well. Okay? Right, there's even more to do. So my friends, here we go to the next one in the series of inversion. Here we have inversion after as, than and so. Now this is actually quite formal literary style. This is something that will be fantastic in your essays. If you're reading some heavy literature, you will definitely see this. Here what I have done, I have got the formal inverted forms in blue, and I've given you some more natural alternatives in red to inversion. Okay. Now these examples here are not spoken, they are written. The first one we have, Paul was feeling positive, as were his students. Were is now in front of his students. It's inverted, not his students were. But notice, to make it sort of more sort of natural, informal English, I can say Paul was feeling positive like his students were. So I put were at the end, so it's not inverted, his students were. So I've changed it. Next one, we have than. Russians are more superstitious than are the English. To my ears, it sounds so formal, to the point of being ridiculous. So in natural spoken English, Russians, or even written English, Russians are more superstitious than the English are. So I've not inverted it. I've kept it in its normal subject verb structure. The last one we have so, which usually is plus that, I've underlined in green. So difficult was the test that I think I failed. You would never say this in normal spoken English. If you're watching Downton Abbey or Poirot or something old-fashioned, you might hear it, but not in modern English. You'll definitely see it written. Again, to give an alternative, so difficult was the test was so difficult that I think I failed. Now, there is one sort of benefit to this. I have written these examples in red to make it sort of a bit more formal. The meaning is exactly the same, not as emphatic, formal literary style. I've taken that away by writing the alternatives in red. However, if you are doing FCE, CAE, CPE sentence transformation, this will be very useful, because you have to play with your word order. So it's very important to pay attention to. They could ask you about this in the exam. Alright? So, I hope that bit was useful. There's more. Let's do it. So my friends, here we are at the next section. Conditionals. Yes, even conditionals suffer inversion. When conditionals are inverted, it adds a very special touch. And let's have a look. A. If you see her, say hello. That's fine. Quite direct. Inverted with the modal verb. Should you see her, say hello. Now, by using this modal verb should in inversion, it really makes it more emphatic, like, you know, more emotional and more polite. It creates distance now, a lot more distance. It's like if you've studied conditionals before, and if you say, if I asked for your phone number, would you give it to me? And you say, if I were to ask for your phone number, would you give it to me? It adds distance. And this is another way of adding distance, and it makes it more polite. Second one, B. If he were my friend, I would kick him. Standard conditional sentence. Inversion, were he my friend? So the were replaces the if. Were he my friend, I would kick him. not very common in spoken English. Now, if you believe that this is common in spoken English, please tell me, because I've never heard it from someone's mouth. I'll be very happy to know. But generally, you will see this in some written English. Maybe it's a bit old-fashioned, but it does exist. The next one. If I had understood what you meant, I would have blah blah blah. Again, pay attention. If I had understood what you did mean. No, 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 no. Remember the beginning of the video. If I had understood what you meant, I would have blah blah blah. We can put had at the beginning. Had I understood what you meant, I would have blah 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 blah. By saying had at the beginning, it makes it much more formal. It makes it a bit more sort of emphatic in sort of literary style. It's not something you would often hear in spoken English. If you did hear this in spoken English, then it would be creating huge distance. Oh, had I known what you meant, I wouldn't have kicked your cat. I'm so sorry. Not so common. It's sort of too polite, if that makes any sense. But here, yeah, as you can see, inversion works in conditionals. And again, sentence transformation in your Cambridge exams, you could be asked something like this. It's very simple grammar. At high level, you will need to know this, especially at CAE. Learn it. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So my friends, and here we are at the last part of the first section with our auxiliaries in inversion. Now, these are inversion with adverbial expressions, like under no circumstances, at no time, etc. The thing is, you must learn these by heart. Basically, it works as you have your expression, plus your auxiliary, and your subject. It's as simple as that. Now, some of these expressions are sort of very sort of emphatic. You'll only find in sort of literature style. I think maybe 2 or 3 of them can be used in spoken English. I will tell you which ones are as we go along. So let's start with the first one. Under no circumstances should you lick a plug socket. I don't know why you would lick a plug socket, but I'm telling you, under no circumstances should you. Because this adverbial expression is very strong, it is really strong, having inversion makes it stronger. Under no circumstances should you be late for school. Under no circumstances can you kick that dog because it's not nice. Now, the next one. At no time, meaning like not at all, ever. At no time was I aware of any drugs in my car. So very colourful. Maybe it's not something you would use in spoken English very often. Again, you will see this in literature, like written English. Next one, definitely written English. Not until much later did we decide to try eating frogs. Yes, I definitely wouldn't say this in spoken English unless I was telling a story. Again, not until much later did we decide to try eating frogs. If I say this in spoken English without an inversion, let's try. Not until much later we decided. No, it doesn't work. Even in spoken English, it doesn't work. These expressions or these adverbials just automatically take inversion, and for me as an Englishman, I'm used to this structure. Again, hardly could be in spoken English if you really are trying to stress something, to kind of speak like a book, I suppose. Hardly had I woken up when the noise started. The next one, seldom, rarely, we can use this in spoken English as well as written English. Rarely have I kissed a woman. If I use this in spoken English, it is very colourful, it is very sort of emphatic, like a kind of Shakespearean actor. You might hear it. The next one, quite common in spoken English. Little did we know that. It's like a whole expression. Okay. Little did we know that it was going to rain. Little did we, inversion. Little did we know that it was going to rain. Next one. If I'm telling a story, this will be very common. Only then did I make the decision to run. So, for example, I was walking down the street and I saw some really tough criminals. They pulled out a gun, and only then did I decide to make a run for it. Yeah, it works. Next one. Only after her birth did I become a real man. Quite colourful, literary style, not really in spoken English. The last one, yes, can be in spoken English, definitely written English. My CAE teenager student Tanya, this one is for you because you used it in almost every essay, but I loved it anyway. Not only did Brad Pitt star in the film, but he also directed it, like the example earlier. Now, that is the end of inversion for the first part. Now we're going to the second part to look at inversion with our main verbs. The next part's quite short, quite literary, but interesting. Let's have a look. So my friends, welcome back to the second part of inversion. Now we're going to invert main verbs, not auxiliaries. Let's have a look at this. We talk about inversion in descriptive writing. So again, you're talking about sort of literature. This is not common at all in spoken English. I even don't think you'd ever use such structures in your CAE essays. I'm not sure about CPE, but if you decided to write a book, this would be fantastic. Now, what we do, we take our verb and we put it in front of our subject. However, the verb needs to be intransitive. It only works with intransitive verbs. Plus, if we have an expression of place or direction. Here are these examples. In front of my desk stood a tall, attractive woman. That just sounds so colourful, so literary. Do you understand what I mean? It just would not occur in spoken English. In spoken English, it would sound like this. A tall, attractive woman stood in front of my desk. We completely changed the structure of the sentence. But because it's descriptive writing, we're using inversion to make it emphatic, to emphasize it, as I said at the beginning. The next one. Over the junction drove 3 super sports cars. Sounds really like colourful, like emotional, descriptive. Normal English, 3 super sport cars drove over the junction. That would be standard. But here again, we want to emphasize it using inversion, recipe for success. The last one. Below the street flowed natural spring water. Now, if I'm sort of talking in, like say, a documentary, then this wouldn't be right because this is descriptive. If I was like doing, say, like a Discovery Channel documentary, I would say, natural spring water flowed below this street many years ago. Fine, standard. But descriptive writing, inversion, gives us that special touch. It makes it emotional, colourful. Below the street flowed natural spring water. Even listen to how I say that sentence. Now, that's the first part done. That's some ideas on descriptive writing. Very, very specific. Very, very specific. I don't think you'll find any practice on this in any textbook. But maybe in the future I'll make some practice myself. Right, the next part. Let's do it. So my friends, here we are, and we have inversion. Finally, informal speech, inversion we can use in our spoken English. And this is very, very common indeed. When we have here or there at the beginning of our sentences, we can invert. For example, oh look, here comes the bus. Now I can say, oh look, the bus is coming. I can say that, no problem. If I want to give some surprise, to emphasize the fact that the bus is coming, I can invert. Oh look, here comes the bus at last. Like here. There goes my money, my wife is shopping. So imagine I'm in a supermarket and I see my wife shopping. Sorry that this is a bit sexist, but oh well, it's grammar. My wife is shopping, so, oh, there goes my money. That's it. Really emphatic, really colourful, emotional. Here comes the train at last. Very common. Last one. Imagine I'm giving a tour around a part of London and I can say, so people, here stood an old castle many years ago. It really adds a nice bit of colour to that. That's it. That's it. There's nothing more to say where this is concerned. Very simple. You can actually learn these phrases by heart, and you don't really need to learn many more. That would probably be enough to begin with. Now we have one section more. Let's do it. So my friends, here we are at the very last section, and this is probably the easiest part, to be honest. This is inversion in reported storytelling. So if you are reading a book with a lot of dialogue, you will see this. It's something that you see all the time, but you probably haven't thought about why it's like that. I hate you, said Paul. Not Paul said. It's inverted. You smell, exclaimed Sarah. Not you smell, Sarah exclaimed. Doesn't work. Get out of my face, shouted the policeman. Very common. However, be careful, but I hate you, said he. That's wrong. I hate you, he said. When we have a pronoun, we do not invert. That's the only time. And in fact, in the previous example with here and there, it's the same principle. If you have a pronoun, you don't invert. Okay, now that's basically it. There is nothing really more to say here. It's really simple. It's basic. This is even pre-intermediate English, if not even earlier. Now, unfortunately, the inversion is not such a big theme in English. If you look at most textbooks, you'll probably really only see this at advanced level, maybe upper intermediate if you're lucky. I've never really come across much practice on this. I tend to make my own examples for my students with some of the fixed adverbial expressions to use in essays and some in spoken English, like me too, or so did I, so was I, so am I, etc, etc. However, there is a book which I strongly recommend you to buy. It is called Oxford English Grammar Course by Michael Swan. And the pages are 258 and 259. There are some exercises there on inversion, so it's something. It's better than nothing. Michael Swan is my hero when it comes to grammar books, because no one explains it as well as this guy. His books seriously are my Bible. So that concludes our grammar lesson on inversion. I hope it was interesting. I hope it was useful. I hope now you understand how inversion works. You can make your English a bit more colourful. It will help you in your writing and some parts in your spoken English to make your English a little bit more natural. Just try playing with it. Use my examples. Use your own examples based on my models. And I would love to know how it goes. Write some comments if you have some problems. I will try to answer as soon as I can. So my friends, have a wonderful evening. Please subscribe. Please give me a thumbs up for this. It's taken me hours to prepare. I am going to bed now, thank God. Have a wonderful evening or morning wherever you are in the world, and have fun learning English. Goodbye, my friends.